So the session will focus on NOAA Hollings, NASA Develop, and USAJobs pathways. And so just as a reminder, USAJobs encompasses pretty much everything federal. So lots and lots of agencies have a pathways program, Forest Service and Fish and Wildlife and Natural Resources Conservation Service. So that one's pretty broad, actually. So I'm going to start by having the panelists introduce themselves here. So if the panelists could please give me your name, the program that you did, your major, and just maybe a little bit of a summary of your experience in the program. So let's start with Julia.
Yeah, awesome. So hi there. My name is Julia. I use she, her pronouns. And I am a NOAA Hollings scholar. I am a junior currently here at Oregon State University. I'm an environmental science major. And kind of how I got here, I guess, is in the intro to environmental science class, Dr. Becker mentioned it along with a couple other scholarships. And then emailed me my sophomore year and was like, hey, like, you're gonna do these, right? And I was like, I don't know, Larry, I don't know. And he was like, no, like, you should like really do this. He was like, here's a Zoom call for tomorrow. Like, we'll hop on and we'll talk about it. And I was like, great, okay, I can handle that. But it turns out actually one of my TAs was a past Hollings scholar. And so through that, it was really great to be able to talk to about it. But she actually even ended up writing me a letter of rec, and we're really great friends now. So I think I kind of credit being able to have a good support system through like Dr. Becker and my TA and other great people here at OSU. But I think part of it really is, I think putting yourself out there and like taking that chance. Like I remember like hitting the submission button or like even just like getting my acceptance email. I'm pretty sure I killed my roommate. I think she thought I had a heart attack because she came running up as I was like crying. But I think being able to put yourself out there and have that faith in yourself, I think is a big first step, and asking for help. I think that's one thing that we, a lot of the times as students, I know that I personally don't ask for help enough, but being able to reach out to either teachers or professors that you've had and be like, hey, can you read this? And like, tell me if it's good or not. And just being willing to like take the feedback and work with it and go from there.
Awesome. So for those of you who just joined, we're just starting with some introductions. So let's go to Tadanisha next. So basically just tell us a little bit about yourself, your major, and then a little bit about the program that you're involved in.
Hi everyone, sorry I'm a tad bit late. I had a little lag with the link. I couldn't find it at first. I'm like, where is it? And then there was another link that said it was on February 1st. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was today. But well, my name's Tadanisha. I'm a senior in Fish and Wildlife Sciences major. I'm minoring in marine conservation and management and biology as well. I've had various, I guess, volunteer experiences out here in California as an animal keeper for sanctuaries. So that's kind of like my passion, just taking care of wildlife and rehabbing them and putting them back into the wild, especially with possums out here. I'm sorry, what were some of the other questions?
Yeah. So that's good. So then just tell us a little bit about the program that you did and kind of your experience in it. And we're gonna do a lot more questions, but that's just kind of the starter one.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm a Pathways intern for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services out in Klamath Falls as a biological sciences trainee with the Partners program. So with the Partners program, it's basically a program within Fish and Wildlife Services where they go to private landowners and kind of work together with other nonprofit organizations to create restoration plans for landowners and what they want to do with their property. And they get some kind of incentive, but we go ahead and put up that contract for them, and we do whatever project we might do in their property, whether it be building like BDAs for their channels to prevent erosion, especially with our wildfires going on in the Klamath Basin. And things that I've done are probably short nose and long nose sucker surveys. That's one of the endangered species out there in Klamath Falls.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go to Sash next for an introduction.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sash. I'm a senior majoring in environmental science with minors in biology and statistics. And I was part of the NOAA Hollings program as well. I got basically selected in 2020 and then did the internship in 2021. So for me, it was virtual, but it was still a really great experience. And what I like about this program is it's super versatile. Basically, NOAA does a lot of different things, basically anything to do with the ocean and atmosphere, or like in my case, I was interested in kind of data science. So I worked with more on the data and analytics side of things. So there is a ton of options for what you can do. And yeah, basically, I did work for them processing data and putting them into nice, like pretty charts that were easy to analyze and like make inferences about to figure out how to make their programs better. And now what I'm working on currently is the program allows you to attend up to 2 conferences. So I'm going to be presenting virtually at the American Meteorological Society and the Ocean Sciences Meeting, OSM. So I'm working on getting my presentations ready for both of those. It's been a really cool experience.
That's awesome. Okay, let's see. Let's do Zena next.
Hi, my name is Zena. I use she, her pronouns. I'm studying natural resources as well as sustainability. And I'm a Pathways intern, but specifically I work with the BIA, so the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And to get into that program, it's a little different than any other Pathways program because they have, I can't remember what they call it, but it's a specific for Indigenous students to get into the Pathways program, specifically the BIA to work on tribal lands, with the whole idea of being self-sustaining for tribal identities and being a sovereign nation. And so as a Pathways intern, I interned out in Grand Ronde this past year, working in their plant nursery. And I did a lot of work with plant species that are native to Oregon and specifically culturally relevant to the tribe, and working sometimes with their youth as well as getting hands-on experiences with the kids and plants and planting. And I did some other activities with research with the tribe too. So I was able to do that kind of stuff.
Okay. And then our last panelist, Susan.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Susan Jarvis. I am a recent graduate of Oregon State University. I graduated in June 2021. My major was geography and geospatial science. So pretty much, you know how it's been, COVID, everything, everywhere, forever. So my senior year was mostly online due to COVID, and my recent, like that gap year between, you know, college and your forever career or whatever you're going to do was also mostly remote. So I kind of began like flooding job posts, websites, LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, kind of whatever I could to stay relevant and try to keep learning further. And so I found it's called I Did NASA Develop. So it's a educational research project based internship working with NASA and Science Systems and Applications Incorporated. So pretty much I did a 10-week research project that focused on agriculture and food security. So I was able to, it's a nationwide program. It's awesome because you get to work in all these different project areas and you get to pick what application area you're interested in. That was something I really liked about it. Like you could do water resources, you could do energy, you can do health and air quality. But I was able to work on a team and use my geography skills. So we did arc story maps and coding. I learned a lot of computer coding for this project internship. And I thought it was really great. It was entirely remote. online, but the amount of networking that I was able to do and kind of, I think, relationships I was able to build in the professional world really made it worth it.
Great. Okay, so one more question from me, and then I'm going to turn it over to all of you to ask whatever questions you have. So my question is, what is your top tip for applying for one of these programs? And whatever order you all want to take that in. What's your top tip?
I think first, just to apply, I think some people get scared. It's intimidating. Some of these are like federal things, federal jobs, and they get intimidated that they're not adequate enough to apply. And it doesn't hurt to apply because you always can get told no, but you could get told yes. And so the first step is just actually being confident enough to submit it.
Yeah, mine was very similar to that as well. I almost didn't finish filling out my own application just because I was like, oh, I'll never get selected for this. Like, what's the point of putting all this effort into this essay and getting all these people to write letters of recommendation. So yeah, definitely follow through and just put it out there. Even if you don't get it, you know, you miss every shot you don't take. My other tip is it's about who you know. So if you're pretty early on in your college career, it's very good to like make friends with and get in touch with professors who do research or people that work in like labs around OSU or anyone that you want to be able to recommend you later for something like this in the future.
Great.
Yeah, I think going off that personally, don't sell yourself short. That's kind of my thing. So when in an intro into environmental science, when we talked about like these, I think there were 3 options of like different scholarship or internship programs. And I was set on UDAL. I was like, I really want to get this. That would be amazing. That's like, was like my dream. And so I knew I was going to apply for that. And then Larry was like, come on, Julia, like you should do like, you know, NOAA Hollings. And I'm like, you know, like I love science communication and working between people. I really also, my minor is in social justice. I work for the diversity centers here on campus. So that part of science, I think too, was I was like, you know, like that doesn't really seem more like my field. I really love like the personal connection, but also, you know, like looking at like what biases science has, and like, you know, like what does science leave out and all of these things, and like how is it like equitable, and like is it equitable? I was like, you know, that doesn't really apply here. And he was like, just do it anyway. I was like, fine, I'll do it anyway. And I ended up not getting the UDAL and thinking I was just done. I was like, my life's over. I put all this work into this one application, like all this blood, sweat, and tears. And then I got a letter from the NOAA Hollings, which I didn't even know it was my acceptance letter. It just said like student scholarship. So I was thinking it was like from OSU. I was in class, camera on from Zoom, and I had to excuse myself because my teacher was like, hey, Julia, you're sobbing. Do you want to like take a break? And I was like in math, of course, too. He's like, thought it was like hard. And I was like, no, I just like got a letter, I'm fine. So don't sell yourself short just because you don't think something works for you. It will. I will be working in Maui next summer doing science communication and creating research, cultural resources for the humpback whale sanctuary. So doing exactly what I want to do in the future. Didn't think it would be possible with this, but it is. I think the other really important piece of advice is have multiple people of different lenses read over your application. So whether that's professors of different fields, because you'll get comments on things that you really love. Like I'd have a couple of sentences that I just like was just really emotionally tied to. Just, you know, like when you write, you love things and things are meh for you. And I had some professors, some of them really wanted me to change some of the things that I loved. And then I had one of them that was like, Julia, like this is like, that's your personality right there. I think it's important that you keep that. So being able to have different people that you can listen to and kind of weighing different options, just even when it comes down to like editing and what you should put in your application. So that way you like keep as true to yourself as possible. That's what these are looking for.
In my experience, aside from everybody else's, it's a little bit of everything too. one of the things that I've been advised from my coworkers a lot is to make sure in our resumes that we have certain keywords built into our federal resumes, at least. Reading over what's not expected from the job descriptions, but what the job description entails, and kind of incorporate it into your resume if you've had that experience or if you've had that education. As long as they see that there's some background in it, it really helps a lot. And like everybody else is saying, don't sell yourself short. I've been told many times by other coworkers, even if you've just done it once, and you're practically an expert. So don't think just because you don't have the experience, you're not good enough. I used to think the same way. Oh, they're not gonna choose me or anything like that. There's periods of times where I'm very stoked about applying to all these positions that come up for the seasons, but then I feel overwhelmed because I don't think I'm qualified for them. And then every now and again, you get somebody that interviews you. So you just never know who may open the door for you and who's looking out for people that are recent graduates and just starting out their careers. So don't give up, and just keep your mind open and be open to different opportunities. Just don't just be stuck in one I guess job title, I should say, because you just never know which opportunity may open that door to the specific job you want for the future.
Yeah, and I would say it's the federal world is competitive, and if you can get an internship or a seasonal position, you know, even if you're earlier in your college career, that can really help you start moving into that versus finishing your whole college career, then trying to jump into a full-time role. That's a lot harder. So these internships really open up doors. And then let's see, do we have one or two more tips?
Yeah, I think my biggest tip, kind of without hesitation, is especially if you're a student at OSU still or a recent graduate like myself, take advantage of your resources. Like, take advantage of Britt. She's here to help. Like, talk to your old professors. You know, you can be annoying in this sense. You can schedule 5 meetings in a week. I wanted this internship so badly. I think I met with Britt like 4 times in 1 week. Please help me with my essay. Like, please read this over for me. And you know what I mean, whether she said it or not, she seemed happy to help. And I think you really have to kind of allow yourself to be vulnerable in that way, and like be prepared. Like, oh, you think your resume is perfect, you've made it on Word, or you know, you did a template from Google. I would definitely have someone read it over, because I promise there's something on there that you may want to alter or tweak, and just take those that help to highlight your best self. You know, there's parts of you that maybe you can't see, and other people can just by listening and working with you. Like, I had a professor that I reached out to a lot. I think she's in this call. I'm gonna say hi, Lori. She's also like my number one. You know, you have to have establishing those good relationships while you can, and it's easier when you're still on campus, or you're still able to have a class connection or any type of Zoom interaction with kind of professionals who've been around and who want to see you do well. You know, kind of what everyone else was saying is kind of have those relationships, and not be afraid to work harder and make those edits and do the thing, change the thing you might not want to, or stay true with what you want to do. You know, it's just, you gotta knuckle down and do it.
Awesome. So actually I lied, one more question from me, because I just want to give a little bit greater of a sense of what these internships were like. So if each person could say, just try to paint us a little bit of a picture of what it was like what was your favorite part of this experience? What was challenging about it? So if each of you could just tell us just a little bit more about what those internships were like, that might help with questions.
Well, with my internship, because of COVID, most of the time it's been online at home. The huge advantage for me with this internship being at home for me, I have a 4-year-old daughter, so I get to stay home with her for the most parts of the day, and they're really flexible about that. So I am very fortunate to have a great boss that understands that we have lives outside of school and work, and understands that I had to come back home in Southern California rather than being stuck at home in Klamath Falls. So like, I can just go back home. But before we had a big fire, but we had a lot of things planned out where we would go. I think I only got to go out on one sucker survey, unfortunately, due to the bootleg fire that occurred last year. We weren't able to go out as much because of the bad air quality. Other than that, we probably built some BDAs out in the channels.
What are BDAs?
Beaver dam. Oh my God, beaver dam analogs. And basically, what they are, they're just woody structures that you put out into the river areas where you want to go ahead and let the streams flow, slow down. That way there's sedimentation going on and it filters out the water in the rivers and also prevents a little bit of erosion. But right now what I'm working on is doing a literature review on post-fire management treatments for aquatic habitats. So aside from, I'm trying to find something out aside from BDAs for our region, but we'll see how that goes.
Awesome. Okay, other folks, what was it like? What was your favorite part? What was challenging? That kind of thing.
So when I joined the Pathways program, I got hired on right before COVID had happened. And so like the summer of COVID was the summer of my internship. And so I was postponed and waited. And finally, for the Pathways program I'm in, you need 660 transferable internship hours to go into the Pathways program into like a federal position once you graduate, because it offers they offer federal positions to everybody in that program through the BIA. And so since I needed that many hours to get before graduation, they had me work year round last year. So I was able to get a lot of hands-on experience all of last year and all of this past summer. And so I was able to do different programs within the natural resource department in Grand Ronde. And so I worked with their fisheries people, the wildlife biologists, the plant nursery, as well as the fire crew. And so I was able to get hands-on experience in all those different aspects within the NR department, as well as I went on different I think trips too with some of the upper people in the NR department, some of the managers and stuff, talking about policy within tribal lands and because they were looking to update their natural resource management plan. And so they're talking about different updates and different ways that their lands are used because they are a tribe, and some of the policies on trust lands is different than leased lands and stuff with the government. And so I was able to get not only hands-on experience, but also like policy management experience too. Through that program. And then this summer, I'm looking at maybe going to Yakima or somewhere in Utah, because you're able to travel around with this program too. You don't have to stay in one place every summer. You can if you want to too. So it's pretty cool. They're very flexible with students and making the program and like your internship what you want to do, because it's like for you. So I think that's pretty cool about the Pathways, how they can tailor it to your own like interests.
I'll speak a little bit on NASA Develop. So NASA Develop, I was also kind of joining right around COVID in the heat of it all. And so it was entirely remote from my house. So we utilized Microsoft Teams, very similar to Zoom platforms and things like that, but you can chat and go to video things. So you had a blocked out schedule for the day. And it was really neat because we were in this small group of 4 that works pretty much on a case study that has like an area and some tasks you can do, working with like different companies and things like that. It's a partnership organization. So I worked with a health and air quality team from Tonle Sap in Cambodia. So my small team, we worked on the feasibility of using satellite data and remote sensing data products in replace to on-site collection, physical data collection because of COVID and limited communication and resources with Cambodia at the time. So to test the feasibility, we were each given kind of a scale or like a water quality parameter to kind of try to see how things have changed. So my prime responsibility was doing a Google Earth Engine computer code using JavaScript language to see how the water has changed in 20 years in the boundary of the lake and how that is kind of altered and developed. So that was really neat. But aside from the small team and the actual data analysis, this internship was really beneficial for me because it focuses on young development and science communication. Like we created a tech report, we did a PowerPoint presentation, we did like a story map to kind of convey some more science communication kind of stuff. And as the last thing I'll say too, there's this other component that focuses on how to become more professional or how to gain proficiency in applied science and data collection skills. So you would get paid. You had the option to go to a remote class on how to improve your coding or how to create a better story map or how to use ArcGIS or other softwares that are generally utilized by geography and geospatial science work. So that was really awesome. And that was kind of our prime responsibility is the data analysis. You can go to these classes if you want, and I did. They were awesome. And kind of preparing for your presentation and your tech report and things like that. There were weekly check-ins and you met with your team. Like you probably spend 6 to 7 hours a day on meetings or chatting with your team or, hey, I'm kind of stuck. Have you seen this? You know, have another eyes on your work. But yeah, so that's kind of, it was like a mini school term almost with like a little bit of added fun, I'll say, or a little bit of extra spice, I guess.
A little GIS spice. Okay, who else?
My experience basically, if COVID hadn't been a thing, you kind of you get the scholarship, and then it's kind of like a 2-year like thing, like with lots of events in there. So what I would have done is like fly out to the New York area and meet with all the other scholars and meet with the people running the program and have like a little intro vacation thing. And then over the summer that year after you get your scholarship, you do like an internship, 10-week program, I think. And it can be almost anything you're interested with. They give you like a big list of different options, or if you don't like any of those, you can reach out to someone and make your own. I ended up making my own just because the first thing they told us when they were introducing it, which was online this time because of COVID, they kind of talk about all the different branches of NOAA. And I reached out to one of the people who spoke in that, and I was like, this is interesting. Where do you think I would fit in? And we ended up kind of making one specifically for me. So there's like a lot of options for whatever you're kind of interested in. I was interested in, again, like nerdy, like data stuff. So that's kind of what I ended up doing. Mine was online as well, but for me, that wasn't so much of a problem because I wasn't interested in doing like hands-on stuff. I was interested mostly like getting experience with code and data. So it worked out for me. And I still really felt like a part of a team. Everyone was like super friendly. We like crack jokes with each other right the end. Like, you know, of course, these are like professionals that work for the government, but like they become your friends kind of. So yeah, my job was basically, I learned how to use a program called Tableau, and I took in data and I made it into like a big cool dashboard where you can click buttons and it shows you different stuff. And then we had like a wrap up, which again, I think you would have flown out if everything was normal. And then as I mentioned earlier, you also are allowed 2 conferences. So now I'm like putting PowerPoint and as like speech together to speak at a professional conference about what I did, which is again, another really cool thing to put on your resume. Plus, of course, it's a scholarship. So one thing that is cool about the actual scholarship itself is rather than the money going directly to like OSU to pay for your tuition, it actually just goes into like a bank account. So you have more options for how you spend it on stuff, which is something that's pretty cool. So yeah, that was kind of my experience.
Yeah, I'm also in NOAA Hollings. So just kind of going off that. because of COVID, my orientation was also online, which I was bummed about. But I was actually able to go and do a site visit. So after you get your orientation, they show you like, this is the website of where all of your internships, like where they're all listed. And a lot of questions there that I get with people are just like, what if there's not an internship for me? And I'm like, hun, there are like, I think I just checked the number. There's hundreds there right now. So with that, there's literally everything and anything. In I think almost all states. I don't think there were any in Montana this year, but besides that, any state, I will be, hopefully, if we're on the track that we are right now. Hi, Larry. On the track that I'm at right now, I will be living in Maui this next summer, working for the humpback whale sanctuary there. Doing, I think I was looking at my government emails. My official title is like sanctuary, like my job title is like Sanctuary Visitor Center Development. But my mentor really let me turn that into anything that I wanted. So she wanted to know what I was interested in, what I wanted to do with that. But if you like more structure, I know that there's people in, we have a giant group chat of the 125 of us. So there's people going to Seattle to specifically look at like the orca whale populations there and look at their food sources and how that's like declining, or people, there's like certain art projects that are like very much, they're very, I guess, very laid out. So there's positions for anyone, and they have all different levels of buffer room, I guess, to work with. But yeah, so I will be doing that this summer. This past December, I did my site visit. So I went to Maui on the government's tab, which is kind of nice to not have to pay for that. Met my coworkers and my boss, looked around at where I was going to be living and transportation. And then hopefully I will not be here for finals week spring term. I will be there instead.
Is anybody else just jealous of this whole like studying whales in Maui thing? That sounds amazing. You're really lucky for that one.
I will fully admit that I planned on going to Hawaii. Like the moment I got this scholarship, I'm in the honors college. I emailed someone that I was hoping to be my thesis mentor with, and I was like, how do I fit Hawaii into this? So I made sure that my research here actually was dealing with Hawaii itself, so that way I'd have an edge up against everyone else.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they asked, people were asking questions in like the intro meeting for my scholarship, they were like, what are the most popular internships? And it was just like anywhere in Hawaii and Alaska, doesn't matter what it is, people want to go there. But then it didn't matter in the end because we were all virtual, but it was pretty funny.
Okay, well, we're going to open it up to questions. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. People can also take themselves off mute because it's, a fairly small group. We can keep it pretty casual. So whatever works. Okay, it looks like we have our first question. Aside from education experience, was there any specific work or volunteer experience that influenced your ability to land these amazing opportunities? So we can either have all of the panelists answer this or just one or two, depending on how many questions we have coming in. So let's just start with maybe one or two.
Yeah, I actually have I 100% am cheating. I've been pulling up my application here so I can look at it. But the thing that I got from talking to either my friend who was a past Hollings scholar, who wrote me a letter of rec, but she was like, do things that are passionate and true to you, because that's what they're looking for here. And what they're looking for is not the person. I will say, like, I was terrified. There's people also in this program with me who like I feel like are so much better than me just by looking at their Instagrams. I know that's not true, but being very authentic to yourself and your work and what you love, and making sure that like you see that through your application. So explaining like if like you do volunteer work somewhere, like explain exactly why and why you love it, and make sure that that comes through. But besides that, just making sure that you really show that you are community-based and focused. That was my really big thing with NOAA, is that I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this because like my future goals are community-based. Here's why. So yeah.
One or two others want to answer that question?
Well, for me, I think I said in the beginning, I had a lot of animal caretaking experience. I used to work at animal shelters for the city, and I also used to volunteer at exotic animal sanctuaries up here in Victorville. And my former job before I got this internship, I was with uh oh my god, a fish hatchery. Sorry, I like totally blinked out, but it was a fish hatchery up here in Victorville for CDFW. So I think that kind of gave me the upper hand. Um, Before Pathways, I used to look for a lot of internships for the Mono Project. If you guys haven't heard of it, I can put up a link for Mono Project, and there's like a whole bunch of internships up right now where they will pay your housing. They will give you a monthly stipend for your housing and actually pay you for the work that you do. So I was um, doing an internship as a recreation assistant in Lake Tahoe before I even transferred to Oregon. So I was kind of fortunate to go ahead and get picked out before I can turn into the Pathways program. But that's probably one of the main things working with the Forest Service. But it's pretty much just getting different perspectives on cover letters and those resumes and putting your passion on those resumes as long as it shows and it's you're passionate about it. Um, it can open a lot of doors. I remember when I got out of my interview for my Pathways internship, I felt really good about it. I felt like 100% it was mine. It didn't have to tell me. Just the reactions that I got from my managers, the reassurance that I got from the emails afterwards. The thing is, I waited a whole month. Uh, yeah, I think I waited a whole month to receive a response. I'm like, I haven't heard back from them. I'm gonna go ahead and call them back to see if there's an application status or an update if they hired somebody else. Like I was so anxious to know. Come to know, it was me that they had picked in the long run, but they're like, oh, we've just been so busy that we didn't even notify you. I'm like, oh, geez, that's great. But I mean, the anticipation was killing me. But as long as that passion shows when you're going through the interview process as well, I think that plays a big role of how enthusiastic you are. One of the main things, or I was actually talking to somebody at the hatchery because I was trying to do a full-time position. My coworker told me to know the mission of the agencies you're applying to and kind of work towards that, work your resume, work your interview up towards that mission. And as long as they see that you want to be with that mission, I think that's an important thing for managers that are hiring.
And yes, do please put the Mono Project link in there. And I think Susan had a couple links too. I just want to highlight a couple of things that Tadanisha was saying that are just so important. I see this a lot in cover letters. People's tendency is to want to kind of list accomplishments from their resume, and it's very dry. And especially, I think if we come from a sciences background, it's like, I did this and I did that. But if you can really show, like, why do you care? Like, why does this get you excited? You know, what is your research and what do you want to give to the world? Not just that piece of, here's what I'm interested in, but like what Julia was saying about, you know, being community based. So like, this is the impact that she wants to have. And this is why real people or ecosystems would be impacted. So it's kind of like, think about cover letters and essays more telling your story. It's not just a list. So I think that that piece of passion is really important. So I just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a tiny little bit more. During my interview, I actually remembered right now, I totally blanked out again, that I probably practically almost cried in my interview because they asked why I wanted to do this internship. And it kind of brought my family up because they've helped me so much, pushed me to go through all this and have helped me with my little girl in order for me to go ahead and achieve this. So I was like, I really want this. I really need this. I'm like, I really worked so hard for this. Not just me, but my family has like put in so much time to go ahead and for me to go ahead and land something like this.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. Our next question, do you recommend taking any specific courses to prepare for jobs in these fields, like communication, statistics, etc.?
I'm still trying to figure this one out. I mean, I haven't graduated yet, so I'm thinking the same thing, honestly, like, oh, what courses should I take to, help me do this? It really comes down to, well, one thing, I'm kind of biased. Any experience you can get with like, computers, technology, that's the future. So like, I really recommend learning like basic coding. I didn't know Python when I took my internship, but they kept bringing it up like, well, we have this Python code, but you don't know any Python, so we're going to give you this instead. So that's one thing. As soon as I finished my internship, I signed up for like 2 Python courses because I was like, I got to know this. So I think data analysis and computer stuff is something that I'm interested in, but whatever would give you like a different perspective or more experience in like what you want to do is what you should be looking to take if you have room in your schedule. I mean, if you're just trying to get everything you need to graduate, then just like look at those options and be like, which one is most applicable to me, and yeah, spin it that way.
The courses I have taken have been biodiversity and conservation management driven, where I've taken like herpetology, mammalogy, ornithology, ichthyology. What I've done to kind of structure my course layout, this is my last year. Yeah, this is my last year before I graduate in June. I looked at a lot of job descriptions and see what kind of knowledge did they wanted the applicants to have. And that's how you kind of base your coursework, where if they wanted you to be able to identify plants, identify birds by song, by site, nesting sites. So I've seen applications where they're specific about those things. So I've taken systematics of birds, so I can go ahead and learn different calls of birds, different features between different species. Taken plant IDing classes where I literally got a dichotomous key Bible book. Oh my God. And some people actually want that in your resume. So doing the, biological statistics courses, working with RStudio. I've seen positions out here that specifically tailor positions that want people to work with RStudio. So having those programs and knowing those programs or coding, like you said, is very important. Probably a lot of ecology and restoration classes. And depending on where you want to go, especially with Fish and Wildlife Services, we work a lot with the tribal communities. So having some background with tribal history is also great to keeping those relationships together.
I'll just chime in real quick with the geography and GIS represent. I think no matter what, any type of data modeling, any type of location-based data presentation classes, even an intro class, the 200 series at OSU is pretty digestible if you have any interest at all. Everyone in the department is really friendly and open, and I think they're really patient, which is really important, I feel, with GIS and coding together in my experience. But I highly recommend any type of visual data modeling or location-based data analytic classes.
I was going to say GIS, and all my internships and all the research I've done on campus and stuff has always used GIS. And I think it's universal too, not just like in the NR fields or in ag and stuff like that. They use it everywhere. And so it's really good just to even get one class under your belt is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people are really nervous about putting something on their resume unless they're an expert, but you can totally put ArcGIS on there, even if you're just a beginner. And if you really feel like you've just barely touched something, you could always say beginner. But like just having it on your resume is like, I've touched this, I could figure it out. That's really what they're looking for a lot of times. So plug for the GIS cert at OSU. It's great. Okay, so next question. Now that remote relationships are just built into our COVID world, I'd love to hear what it was like to build professional relationships fully remotely during or before your internships.
Ooh, I can cover this pretty well. First off, with the NOAA Hollings program, when you find an internship that you like, there's not just like an application process and you just hit submit. You have to send cold emails, which doesn't sound bad until you realize, so like personally, I wanted to go to Hawaii or Alaska because I was one of those people that's like, all of my work here and my mentors are Indigenous women. And I knew that I wanted to do something with either Native Alaskans or Kanaka Maoli up in Hawaii. And I was like, okay, I want to do something like this. I think it'd be really awesome. But sending out those emails is absolutely terrifying. So I recommend is, especially when you realize like how many other people are applying for like the same position, and you're like, and then you start second guessing yourself. But what I suggest is having someone help you with those emails. Again, whether it's just like someone who's really good at English, or just even like a friend of yours or a professor, or someone that can look it over and be like, yeah, like I get what you're trying to say here. Maybe switch this to like make it more coherent. But that way you have just backup, so that way you feel more confident with those, with sending like cold emails and things like that. Because that's your very first, that's like their very first impression of you, and you want it to go good. Second, I don't want to say like do the most and burn yourself out, but like do the most, like be respectful and responsible. So with whether it's like taking positions, accepting them, denying them, or just like even reaching out, being really respectful and like fully admitting, being like, thank you so much for taking the time to read this email. Like have that nicety in there, and do that just to make sure that you like are starting just from a good playing field. And then kind of from there, you can see where your relationship goes. So like my mentor, after I saw like the sent from my iPhone message under her emails, I was like, cool, okay, we're to the point where like I can probably be a little less professional now. If she's like emailing me from her phone, like on a Saturday morning, and just putting like her last, like her first name, like, okay. But also even like working with other students across the country, we have a group chat, and it's really hard to get things done just because we are told kind of like a basic instruction, and then sometimes either like links don't work, we don't have certain forms. And so recently I was able to get a reimbursement form for travel, and I literally spent, I can see Sash's face. I spent a month trying to get this. I sent numerous emails I sent numerous emails being polite. And then I finally just got like, there was a point when I was just done. And so I sent an email to the heads of this program, and I was like, hi, I've been looking for this form. I know GMG, this group that we use, has it. If you could please, if you could help me, like I haven't been getting a response. I've sent 3 emails. It's been X number of time, still being very polite, but call in backup when you need it. I was able to get that form. And then I just texted everyone. We have our group chat through GroupMe. I just sent a group chat saying, hey, I have this form. Does anyone else need it right now? And I think I've sent that thing 25 times so far. And so now not only do the heads of my program know who I am because I'm taking responsibility and asking them to help me get this form, but also all of the people that I'm doing this internship with know that they can rely on me. We've never met in person, but I'm getting tons of like thank you emails. And so they know that I'm someone who is responsible and so someone who can help them in the future.
Yeah, I have the same problem. GMG still owes me $195 from November, and it's very annoying. But yeah, the heads of the program are great. I think one lady's name is Sandy, and every time I reach out to her, she's like, GMG, send Sash this money immediately. Thank you. And I'm like, you're the best. But as far as like going back to the actual question about what building professional relationships are like, to me, email is like very weird. I have a hard time telling if like what the tone is sometimes, like what they meant. Cause like, you know, a lot of the people I work with are like older guys and they're just like not thinking about it and just sending it. And I'm like sitting here like overanalyzing, like, are they mad at me or like this and that? So I found that I built the best relationships by just, we use Google Meets. Just the best way to get in touch with someone is just putting like a meeting on their calendar and just having like, you know, a Zoom or a Meet of some kind and just like looking at them face to face and like just having a conversation, because that's pretty much the best you can get with COVID right now. But that's how I've been able to build my relationship with most people is emailing a little bit, but then ultimately trying to set up like a video meeting and just talking. That's how I've become pretty close to like the people that I've worked with, is by doing that. And also, you know, you get a lot done faster because if you send an email, it can get buried under like 10,000 other emails. But if you put a meeting on the calendar, then you both show up and you can just like talk and get it done right there. So I found that that's kind of like the best way to like get to know people if you have to be like fully virtual.
Okay, we're getting a little short on time here. So other questions that we can squeeze in on the application, on what the programs are like? Anything else? Government forms?
I think broadly, I missed a bit in the beginning, so sorry if it was already covered, but I know statistical or data related courses as well as GIS have been mentioned as, you know, it doesn't hurt to take them. I know Ms. Becker actually took intro to, I think it was a GIS and geospatial science with you, and I loved it. Super, super great course. I guess in your experience, have you had support with maybe independently taking any courses, whether it's through, I don't know, the program or some of the offices, or you're connected to people that are maybe, you know, doing that type of work, maybe as a data science or data analyst or things like that? Have you had, I guess, or seen support being then in the programs that you all are? Just out of curiosity.
Well, with my program, I've had some of my coworkers even just come up to me, hey, we can go ahead and set up a meeting for this day, and also I'll show you some tricks and nicks from GIS as a refresher course, because I've taken GIS before, but this was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm like, I need a refresher. But he'll come work with me through Zoom on some GIS models that he does, and just helps me with it. But also with Fish and Wildlife Services, there is like a little school going on within the service where there's just potential for classes for you to learn. There's like currently right now there's a basic bird biology course that's being offered, I believe, in Virginia, and they can, like me, if I probably ask my managers if I can go, they'll probably just have to approve it for me to go over the summer for that course. So there's different courses you can take.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'd say the NASA Develop internship is very headstrong with the GIS. They provide you with the remote desktop login that kind of has that free access to ArcGIS, Esri, Python, you know, terminal and everything, because it's a computer. So I've seen a lot of progressive uses of these different softwares for sure.
Neat, very neat.
All right, other questions? Feel free to take yourself off mute or chat or whatever works.
I mean, if no one has any other questions, I think I'm more general. Has there been like a favorite part to everyone's kind of, you know, all, you know, in this program, in this internship, just a highlight or anything like that?
Yeah, I have two. So first off, I mean, getting to be in Maui for December, like for 4 days, amazing. I am a very big lover of fish and the amount of fresh fish that I was able to eat, especially like having a good meal with someone that you like respect. Like I got to have a meal with my mentor, and just like hearing about her experience and stuff was just like really fulfilling, because like you have good food and good conversation. I'm a sucker for community, as you guys probably know after hearing me talk. But my other one, I talk a lot. I'm super exuberant and passionate, and that gets carried away sometimes, and I'll talk too fast. So I remember having my interview for the position for Maui, and first off, I was the very last interview. It was a month and a half into interviews, and I was sure that someone else had gotten the position because everyone in the chat was like, "Oh, I interviewed for this position," and I was like, "I haven't even gotten an email back. Oh God." But at the end of that interview, I asked, like I had questions about it for them, for my mentor. And I was like, "Do you have any questions for me?" She was like, "No, talking to you was all I needed." And that was the scariest line I've ever heard from anyone, because I was like, "Oh God, I'm either like sucker to win, or this was trash and I killed it, like dead in the water." But she emailed me within 24 hours and said, "You're our candidate, we want you." And just having that validation that your passion is worth it, and that like people out there are going to kind of like latch onto that and love that. I talk too much in class. It's kind of a problem that I think. I don't know what anyone else thinks. But having someone like really validate that's like that, like that's great and that's awesome. And like we need that. Especially in like science, like that we can harness this to like help change the future. That was really, really validating for me, and probably like my favorite part.
Can I just comment on that real quick? I feel like for some reason in like high school and even in college, you kind of have to almost hide your intelligence. Like you don't want to be the person always speaking up in class. It's kind of cool to not. It's really cool to become a professional, and all of a sudden like your intelligence is what is valued, because you're all on the same team. And if you're killing it, then people are excited about that, and you're working with people who are just as passionate as you are. So that was a cool transition for me, being like that nerdy kid that was sticking out to being a professional who's just seen as passionate. So I just wanted to validate that. Other favorite parts?
My favorite part is the anticipation of the hopes of becoming at least permanent or having a 4-year term upon graduation in June. I started this internship June of last year, so we're not to exceed a year for the internship. So after you finish your schooling and the 640 hours, you're able to get a permanent position within the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. So really looking forward to that.
So the Pathways program is like, that's why it's called Pathways. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get hired afterwards, but it's one of the reasons that you do these kinds of programs, is that it's one of those ways to have a more direct hiring path. So that's one of the big benefits we haven't talked about. So I'm glad you brought that up.
I was going to add, through my Pathways, one of my favorite times it was like they were doing tree planting on some of the lands that they had clear cutted earlier, a couple of years prior. And they're like, either you can come to Grand Ronde at 5 a.m. and come out with us and tree plant, or you can, come later in the day and do something else with somebody in our department. And I was like, I'll go tree planting with you. And when we were tree planting, it started snowing up there in the mountains. And it's probably one of the prettiest things I've ever seen, like planting little saplings and seeing snow at the same time. But going off what was said earlier, I'm also really excited about transitioning, because with the BIA, there's a lot of positions currently open and available to be filled by tribal members. And so it's really I'm really hopeful and happy and anticipating moving into a federal position, working with tribal communities, working on tribal lands, bringing back that sovereignty.
Okay. One or two other favorite parts? I know we're probably right about time here, so we'll be wrapping up.
I also wanted to add that within the Pathways program, or even once you're in and you get converted, you have that leeway to go ahead and take on different positions all across the nation. You're not just locked into a certain region or a certain state. You can go anywhere. Oh, it's really great.
Yeah, with the NOAA Hollings, you get non-competitive hiring for 2 years after any degree. So I'm taking a gap year. Gonna go work for NOAA for a little bit, go back to, I think probably maybe grad school, who knows what I'm gonna do with it. And then hopefully work for NOAA again. So it's really just, I want to be like, it's a pipeline, but it's a pipeline.
Okay, well, I will share this recording with anybody who attended, and then as well as the panelists' email addresses. Unless any panelist doesn't want that, let me know that on the side, and I won't share your email address. But if anybody has any other questions they think of, just let the panelists know or let me know. Just want to reinforce that there are people like me, career counselors in each different college. I work with ag, forestry, and COs. So if you want to work with me on your application for one of these programs, do not hesitate. I do it all the time with students, and I'm happy to help with you with your essays and your resumes and all that. So you can make an appointment and handshake if that's what you need. Otherwise, that's all we got. So thank you so much, panelists. You shared such great insights. I really appreciate you. So show them some love with your little emojis and stuff. So yeah.
Be sure to apply.
And there's Larry.
You have supporters. I'll work with you.
Larry threatened to have weekly meetings with me. He was like, if this is the support that you need, we can do this. And I was like, that is a lot. But yeah.
I hope it wasn't a threat. It was a
oh no, it was wonderful. It kept me going.
Thank you, Britt, for organizing this. It was very good, very informative.
Good. I'm glad.